Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Inside the 20 with myself and Cole Pinkston. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3, and joined as I sometimes am by Mr. Cole Pinkston. How about you, Cole?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me again.
All right. Yeah. You're welcome. Oh, hey, we've got another great show for you today, man. We're going to continue on with our little feature that we started on Monday. We're talking about statement recruiting wins for Auburn. I mean, statement recruiting wins. I'm talking about beating Alabama, beating Georgia, beating Ohio State, beating Clemson, beating the guys that you want to compete with on the field, beating them off the field in the recruiting in the living rooms, and flipping the script, as Hugh Freeze likes to say. Before we get to that, man, we want to flip the script on that old car you've got. Man, you want to get that upgrade right now. Give old Caleb Schofield a call. With Mike Patton Auto in LaGrange, Georgia, 334-531-0996. Caleb can help you out big time. He already has some new Ford, Lincoln, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Hondas on the lot. You ought to see that used car inventory, big dog. It's big. All those used cars have to pass a multi-point inspection before they even put them on the lot. You don't even see them before they pass that multi-point inspection. And then they back those used cars with a free 3-month, 3,000-mile warranty. Those new vehicles come with a free lifetime powertrain warranty, unlimited time, unlimited mileage. And if you're not in the market, but you know somebody who is, send them to Caleb. He'll send you $300, a finder's fee. We know how those work. Give him a call, folks. Good Auburn man, Caleb Schofield with Mike Patton Auto in LaGrange, Georgia. He even have it delivered to you out of state. He delivered one to Keith down in Tampa, Florida. Hooked him up, made it happen, sent it to him. Got the deal done. Caleb Schofield, 334-531-0996. Cole, Monday, we started with the in-state. We started close to home. We're talking statement recruiting wins, potential state recruiting wins, in-state recruiting wins on Monday. Some of the guys we mentioned, DeMarcus Riddick, the four-star linebacker committed to Georgia. Four-star defensive lineman, Jeremiah Beeman from Birmingham. Joe Phillips, from Booker T. Obviously, Kevin Riley, the running back. Cam Coleman was probably the easiest of them all. You get him, you're making a statement. And then Perry Thompson, again, you get him, you're making a statement. Some other guys we mentioned, Mario Craver, Jordan Ross, Sterling Dixon, Bradley Shaw. I mean, go look at the top 15 in-state players, and if Auburn and Alabama want some, Clemson wants them, then that's a big statement win. Something Auburn hasn't done regularly, consistently in a while, and obviously that's what Hugh Freeze and staff are wanting to get back to, is not only competing and getting visits from competing with Alabama and Georgia and getting visits from these kids, but getting them in the boat, getting them signed, getting them on campus, getting them in the orange and blue. Today, we're going to go outside the state lines. We're going to take just basically the southeast region, or wherever the hell you want to get them from. Auburn's footprint, obviously, being in the Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Louisiana footprint, in addition to Alabama. So Cole and I are going to give you our out-of-state would-be statement wins. Cole, we'll start with you, big dog. What state you going to start in?
Well, mostly, I mean, I think we'll mostly be in Georgia, right? Because that's the key state besides your in-state. So, and they made an emphasis on it. We can see that. Looking down the list, pretty much all the top guys they're trying to get in there with or are in there with. So, I think I speak for both of us saying KJ Bolden, 5-star safety from Buford, is the number one guy there. He may not be your number one guy, but he's up there, I know, at least for both of us. And
I'm going to say if Auburn gets this guy, that's a huge change in narrative. This guy is number 4 overall recruit in the country, the number one player in Georgia. Now, you think back, Derek Brown was there. Tank Bixby was a pretty big statement win. This guy right here would be be incredible. It would be something we haven't seen.
I think back to Owen Papo being that huge statement win over there in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, there you go.
This is the next biggest thing if you were able to pull this one off with KJ. just because it's expected that he's going to go to Georgia. It was the same with Owen Papo, if you remember correctly.
Oh yeah,
it was done, right? He was going to Georgia. You don't have to worry about it. Well, Auburn's getting this guy on campus now
twice.
multiple times. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it yet, but we know that if they were able to pull this one off, or even make it interesting, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah. Listen, I think statement would be like a shock, and I would totally be shocked if this guy ended up at Auburn.
I would, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, he visited 2 weeks ago for spring practice. I think Walker White was there that day. Mm-hmm. And then he's coming back Saturday with Walker White being back there. Zach Etheridge has been a big deal in this recruitment. But still, gun to my head, I'm saying that he doesn't sign with Auburn, which is why this would be such a statement win. Not because I feel like I speak for a lot of people when they say gun to the head, no way this kid signs with Auburn.
Right.
I will give you, staying in the state of Georgia, Mike Matthews, 5-star wide receiver from Parkview, and he visited a week or so ago. Cole, you talked to him. I listened to it, and probably come back, but he's another guy he was a top 10 national recruit. I think that says 8. Number 2 in Georgia. So we talking number 1 in Georgia, KJ Bolden. We're talking number 2 in Georgia, Mike Matthews.
Yeah, man. Like you said, I talked to him. I just didn't get the vibe that he was, but it wasn't against Auburn. I don't think it was personal against Auburn or anything. I think he was just like, all right, I'm done with all this visiting stuff. I know the whole run around here. I'm getting tired of it. Don't really feel like talking to y'all either. So,
right.
Sometimes, but as far as being interested, obviously, he's got a couple of teammates there that are very interested in Auburn. You add in another one, Jordan Floyd, who hasn't been offered, but maybe a down the line guy that could get offered. So his attention is on Auburn a little bit, I would say. And when I talked to him at the Under Armour camp, man, I didn't think he would ever show up at Auburn. That was the vibe I got, and then he did. So that means something. And obviously, he's got the offer in football and basketball too. So there's, you got that going on. Yeah, he's a wide receiver that's a 5-star, guys. I mean, that is. Is there anything more important than that right now for Auburn? I don't know if there is, honestly.
Let's see. Staying in Georgia, going South Georgia. Another Georgia commitment. We talked about DeMarcus Riddick and the in-state guys, but if you're flipping Georgia commitments, you're doing something right. 5-star tight end, Landon Thomas from Colquitt County, committed to Georgia. Supposed to, at least planning, or is expected to be back in Auburn this weekend. I think he visited earlier in the spring as well. Cole, correct me if I'm wrong. Landon Thomas.
Yeah, I think it was maybe in January.
Was it Junior Day?
Junior Day. I think he was there for Junior Day.
And he is, you know what? I didn't know this. I started doing a little bit more. I forgot about this. Let's say if I didn't know this. He was committed to Florida State. Like in 2021. So he's a 2024 kid. He was committed to Florida State in 2021, which I guess he was a 9th grader. And then decommitted from Florida State and committed to Georgia. And I think in the most recent On3 industry ranking update, he moved up to a 5-star, which you do not see much from tight ends. You don't see many tight ends being 5-star industry ranking recruits.
Right. Well, I think On3 does a great job too, because they reflect what the NFL draft looks like pretty well. And you're starting to see more guys like Landon Thomas being taken early and be successful. I mean, you look at some of these tight ends that are freaks in the NFL, Darren Waller, George Kittle, all these guys, right? So Landon Thomas is another guy that fits that mold. And obviously, we're hearing so much about Rivaldo Fairweather. Well, this is another guy like him. If Fairweather has the success like we think he can, then I think Landon Thomas becomes more realistic, because we actually talked about that when I went to see him, at Colquitt County not too long ago. So, and Walker White's on this guy, all of that's going on here, and now we think he's coming back. So that is a big deal. I don't know about him. All of these guys that we're talking about here, for the most part, it's one of those things where you and we're not sure how to feel about it. Is in regards to Auburn, even when we talk to them. But that's why it's like, okay, if you pull this off, Hugh Freeze, Auburn, you have done something here. Let me tell you, you've done something. So I'm interested to see what happens with Landon Thomas going forward. He said he was open to the idea of Auburn when I talked to him, so I think he was being genuine.
Staying in the Peach State, by the way, those three guys are top. I think they were top 10 players in the state. Staying in state, Daniel Calhoun, the big, I think, is he a 5-star?
He's a 4-star.
4-star offensive tackle from Roswell, from Walton, Georgia. He's not from Roswell. Walton is in Marietta. I know that because that's Jessica's old stomping grounds.
Nice.
Came, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I remember him, met with Hugh Freeze. Alabama's in the thick of this. This if you get this kid right here, first of all, he's the number 5 offensive tackle according to the On3 industry ranking. You get a top 5 offensive tackle in the country, you're obviously making a statement. Something that Hugh Freeze has done. He did it at Ole Miss, don't forget. So can he do it at Auburn? Can he beat Georgia? Can he beat Alabama? Well, he's got him on campus and hopes to get him back for an official visit. Certainly, Cole, you get this dude, you're making a statement.
Yep, he's on my list as well. I think we have pretty much the same list so far. These are all statement guys because they're in the state of Georgia, and geographically, if you haven't looked at a map, Auburn's real close to Georgia, obviously. So they have to live out of Georgia a good bit, especially when you can only grab about 10 or so guys out of your own state that you think are some of the best players in the country. So first of all, that you got him in Georgia, but this guy right here, I mean, he's 6'6", 350 is what he's listed at, but he's got feet like a tackle, and he can play tackle. And those kind of guys aren't just out there, okay? Especially in this class. Me and Keith talked about this today in our take 2. The offensive tackle class is just a little bit more spread out geographically. There's not a lot of guys in Alabama,
right?
Not a lot of guys in Georgia. Don't know why that is. It's just the way it was this year. And it's very obvious that Auburn made Daniel Calhoun a priority because this is another guy that I talked to at Under Armour camp, which was in February, and thought, oh, there's no way. I walked away going, nah, not going to happen. And then he shows up and he's there with Walker White, and Walker White says, oh, yeah, we're starting to feel pretty good about Daniel Calhoun. I've heard, rumblings from the staff. Hey, I think he's really receptive to this. Even though we didn't make his top 10, I think we're in there now. And I believe that to be true. So this is a guy that, is a statement because he is probably the best, if not one of the top 2 or 3 best offensive tackles in the Southeast this year.
Primo position, man. We kind of skipped. We didn't skip over him, but we talked about Mike Matthews at Parkview. You talked about his teammates. Cole, do you have Jalen Crawford on your list?
He's not on my list.
Statement.
He's not on my list for statement only because at this point we feel like Auburn's one of the top 2 or 3, right? And he keeps coming back to Auburn. I keep talking about the Under Armour camp because I got to talk to all these guys there in one place. Talking to him, I was going, oh, yeah, Auburn's got a great chance there. I walked away from that interview thinking, oh, yeah, Auburn's in that one, maybe more than people think. And then he shows up, and we spend some time with him and his teammate Antonio White, and we go, yeah, you could definitely see that happening. LSU, Clemson. If you're looking at it from a defensive back standpoint, if you were to land a guy over LSU, somebody that LSU covets like they do with this guy, yes, that is a statement win because LSU has been fantastic in defensive back evaluation, and they have tons in the NFL. So, yeah, you win one over that, and then you can really start, making a claim, hey, Auburn's starting to turn into the DBU or whatever. They got plenty of DBs in the NFL. You keep adding to that, and kids are starting to hear that a lot. Auburn's got all these DBs in the NFL. I think that would sort of turn the corner and go, okay, well, LSU's not the only place that elite corners, elite safeties go to now. Auburn's looking more like a place like that. So if you got Jalen Crawford on board, to me, it would give that narrative, and that's a huge win.
I'm listen. This would be a huge win. The only I'm trying to. The only reason I don't have him as a statement win is I think this is a guy Auburn would get under Gus. No. This is a guy Auburn got under Harsin. I mean, they got JD Rim, and I mean so still would be huge. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if I'm putting him up there with the KJ Bolden, Mike Matthews that would be blockbuster.
Right.
So I got him on my fringe.
You did get JD Rim, and you got a couple of these guys. I think back to maybe recruitments like who was it that went to Clemson? AJ Booth. Was that the guy's name?
Andrew
Booth, 5-star guy, ended up going to Clemson. That was a huge battle. You know, some of those, when it comes to an elite defensive back, and this guy is Jalen Crawford, it's like you just can't get over that hump of consistently getting those guys for whatever reason. Yeah. Now that you've gotten JD Rim in one class, if you got him in this class, then you've got something. You're starting to build something there, you know, and we talk about how good the defensive back recruiting has been.
Well, speaking of defensive backs, I think we both got this next guy on our list, Jalen A.P. Hayward.
Yep.
I think he's a top 60 overall player from Rockledge, Florida. There he is right there.
Yeah, Jalen Hayward, he is a Georgia commit, so you got that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because when we both – I've talked to him, you've talked to him, and I think we both agreed, like, he seems pretty open. He seems pretty open to the idea of maybe not just Auburn, but going somewhere other than Georgia. And their safety situation in this recruiting class is very interesting, Georgia's, because they got him committed. KJ Bolden, they got a great shot with him. It's like, are they going to get the top 3 safeties in the country? Is that actually going to happen? Somebody's going to go somewhere else, right? You know, so that's why we think KJ Bolden's been so receptive lately. That's why we think Hayward was receptive when he made it to campus. But bottom line here is this is a Georgia commit, somebody that they covet at safety. And if you can get him away, and he's not from the state of Georgia, he's from Florida, Rockledge, which is somewhere Auburn's had success with before. Man, that would be a huge win too.
Definitely. He is very high on Zach Etheridge. His father is very involved here, and they both have had glowing reviews for Zach Etheridge. He visited back in the spring, and I will be surprised if he doesn't come back either Saturday or for an official visit. I think this dude has legitimate interest in Auburn, and I think he's certainly entertaining the idea of going elsewhere, although he has locked him in a spot in the Georgia class. Well, I'm going to head west for my next 2. I'm going to head west. That Mississippi class, Keith has talked about this in previous shows, pretty damn stout over in Mississippi. Alabama usually goes in there and cherry picks because they're to Mississippi as Auburn is to Georgia. So Alabama has, and of course, Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin there, and Mississippi State always going to get their share too. But the number 1 player, Mississippi, Kamarion Franklin, big defensive lineman, visited earlier this month, expects to come back earlier this month. It's April now. Visited earlier in April. I mean, visited earlier in March, Cole. And likely comes back. He is the number 5 defensive lineman in the country, a top 30 overall player. Let's see, 24/7's got him as a 5-star. Robles has him as a 5-star. I'm not sure how he's not an industry ranking 5-star. Looks like On3 has got him at 191. Everybody else got him in the top 30.
Yep.
Big statement win if Auburn was to pull this guy from Mississippi.
Yeah, well, that was that. I think there was like just a chain reaction of Auburn had the number 1 player in Mississippi, the number 1 player in Georgia, the number 1 player, you know, in Alabama, all on campus that week in March. And that
Arkansas, Tennessee, yep.
That in itself was a pretty big statement for the month of March anyway. And then you think about the possibility of getting Franklin in, and he sounded like he had a pretty good time there. It sounds like he's one of those guys, though, as Keith says, sometimes he gives glowing reviews about everybody, it seems like.
Yeah.
So you're not sure where he's leaning. You're not sure what he's thinking. I tell you, even though he's got all these schools, it's hard to beat those Mississippi schools for a guy from the state of Mississippi. It's just hard. They have some loyalty there.
There you go.
And that, to me, it doesn't seem like beating Ole Miss and Mississippi State is a statement. But when it's the guy in their backyard who they have so much success with, that's where the statement comes from with this one to me. And obviously you can see there that Ole Miss leads in the RPM and for good reason. For good reason. So if you were able to flip that one, that would be a big deal, getting him from that state.
I'm staying in Mississippi for my final one, Daniel Hill. Stud running back.
Yep.
And is scheduled to be in Auburn on Saturday, but I think Alabama. Look at Alabama is at 60%. I don't know where the South Carolina love is coming from, but I think it would probably you can look at that as Alabama with 58% and the field with 41.
Yep.
Was top 10. Got him ranked as an athlete, but we know where he stands, or we don't know, but we presume that he is near the top, if not the top running back on Auburn's board moving forward. This dude is a stud, 6'2", 220, and he'll be at Auburn on Saturday. But again, Meridian's an hour west of Tuscaloosa. Won't be easy.
No.
I'm surprised we don't see the Mississippi schools on that RPM.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is a factor. I think they're definitely a factor. And then Alabama is going to be hard to beat here, in my opinion. I think that is probably a very accurate representation right there on the RPM that Alabama's leading. And, man, I know that Auburn considers this guy just one of those freak recruits. This is one of those guys that only comes through every 2 or 3 years because he's so big. But he's a fantastic receiver. I mean, he looks like Seth Williams when he's playing receiver, right? He just makes those 50-50 catches. And, I mean, he can do anything. So now that you have Fat Burnett on board, it's not as dire that you get a guy like Daniel Hill, but still, I mean, if you were to get both of those guys and they're both over 220 pounds, my goodness, that is that would be the biggest. Number one, it would be the biggest running back class in the country, pound for pound. Number two, it would be it would probably be the most talented in the country. I don't see another running back class being that good.
That would be tough, man. Oh, they're going to have to throw the flag on us, Cole. We're going over our allotted time.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, we left out a lot of guys. I mean, I was thinking, Casey Poe from Texas. That would be huge, in my opinion, getting guys from out there, any offensive lineman out of state that other guys, in-state guys are wanting. There you go. I mean, that's a pretty good group of some of the statement wins we think Auburn could have. KJ Bolden, Mike Matthews, Landon Thomas, Daniel Calhoun, Jalen Crawford, AP Hayward, Kamarion Franklin, Daniel Hill, just some of the guys that Auburn is in with, has gotten visits from. We expect to get more visits from and be a contender until the end. But can they flip that script? Can they get over the hump? Can they not just get kids on campus and get official visits and in-home visits, but can they get those guys in the class? Man, that would be that would signal that maybe there's been a change of things, of scenery in Auburn. Of course, we've already mentioned the in-state guys, DeMarcus Riddick, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Joe Phillips, and Jeremiah Beeman, Kevin Riley, and Jordan Ross. There's so many others. There's a lot of opportunity for Auburn and Hugh Freeze to really flip the script when it comes to recruiting, and certainly gotten off on the right foot. We like what we're seeing, the visits, and some of these kids are saying. But we'll see. We'll see. Hey, we're going to end it right there, man. 24 minutes. We'll throw the flag. We'll take the 15-yard penalty, and just gain 17 on the next one. All right, folks, we're going to be back Thursday evening with a more in-depth look at the A-Day list, the visitor list. We will have blowout coverage this weekend of the A-Day game, as well as the recruits. And also a little reminder, a little public service announcement. We will have our call-in show Saturday evening, 6 or 6:30, somewhere in that time frame. And we'll obviously let everybody know when we get that set. We'll talk. will observe Easter Sunday, so we won't be doing it this weekend. We'll do it Saturday after the game. Appreciate everybody, man. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For Cole, for Zach in the back, I'm Jeffrey Lee. Man, y'all stay out of that left lane. See you.